You believe you're choosing your life, your career, your relationships, your habits, your thoughts. But what if I told you that none of these choices are truly yours? What if everything you think you've decided was actually decided by something far more subtle, far more powerful, operating beneath your awareness every single moment of every single day? There is a force so quiet you've never noticed it, so constant you mistake it for yourself, so invisible that even now as I'm speaking, it's shaping what you'll become tomorrow, next month, 10 years from now. That force is your attention. It's an attention, not intention, not willpower, not desire, is destiny. We spend our lives believing we are the authors of our own story. We set goals. We make plans. We promise ourselves we'll change. But while we're busy making these promises, something else is writing the real script. Attention is the silent architect of everything you are. Consider this. You are not what you intend to be. You are what you repeatedly give your attention to. The person who spends 3 hours a day scrolling is becoming someone different than the person who spends 3 hours reading. Not because of what they believe about themselves, not because of what they want, but because of where their attention flows. Your attention is not neutral. It's creative. Every moment you focus on something, you're feeding it. You're making it stronger. You're making it more real. And over time, the things you attend to become the things you are. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your identity is not fixed. It's not something you were born with and carry through life unchanged. Your identity is fluid, constantly being rewritten by the patterns of your attention. When you give your attention to anger, you become an angry person. When you give your attention to worry, you become an anxious person. When you give your attention to screens, to gossip, to resentment, to comparison, you become those things. Not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline, but because attention is the substrate from which the self is built. The ancient philosophers understood this. They spoke of the mind as a garden. What you water grows. What you neglect dies. Modern psychology confirms it. Neuroplasticity shows us that the brain physically reshapes itself based on where attention is repeatedly directed. The circuits you use become stronger. The circuits you ignore atrophy. This is why two people can live in the same world and experience completely different realities. They're attending to different things, and over time their attention creates different minds, different beliefs, different lives. Now, if you're finding this idea compelling, if you're starting to see the world through this lens of attention, you might want to explore these concepts further. In the description below, you'll find a resource we've created. An ebook that distills ancient philosophical wisdom into frameworks for modern life, especially for those of us who are busy, distracted, constantly pulled in 1,000 directions. It's designed to help you reclaim mental clarity and live more intentionally. Check the description after this video. Let me walk you through the process. How does something as simple as attention become something as absolute as destiny? It starts small. You give your attention to something, a thought, a screen, a person, a problem. At first it seems innocent. It's just a moment, just a glance, just 5 minutes. But attention is never just a moment. Attention is a seed. That seed, if watered by repeated attention, begins to grow, becomes a thought pattern. You start noticing that thing more often. The algorithm of your mind learns that this is important, so it shows you more of it. If you're anxious about money, you start seeing threats to your finances everywhere. If you're obsessed with someone, they appear in every corner of your mind. This is not reality. This is attention-shaping perception. As the thought pattern strengthens, it becomes a habit. You don't even decide anymore. Your attention just goes there automatically. You pick up your phone, you replay the argument, you scan for danger, you compare yourself. These habits of attention are now running in the background, like software you didn't know you installed. And here's where it gets serious. These habits of attention shape your beliefs. If you constantly attend to evidence that people can't be trusted, you'll believe people can't be trusted. If you constantly attend to your failures, you'll believe you're a failure. Your beliefs are not objective truths. They're the result of where your attention has been living. Beliefs shape behavior. Behavior shapes results. Results shape your life. And your life, over the long arc, is your destiny. This is the chain. Attention to thought pattern, to habit, to belief, to behavior, to destiny. And it all begins with that first moment of attention. So here's what this looks like in practice, though I'm not going to give you a step-by-step system. This isn't about productivity hacks. This is about philosophy, about a way of being. First, understand that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes thoughts. This distinction is everything. When you identify with every thought, you're at the mercy of wherever your mind wanders. When you step back and observe, you create space. And in that space, choice becomes possible. Second, recognize that most of what captures your attention is designed to capture your attention. Social media, news, outrage, drama, these things are engineered to hijack the very force that determines who you become. When you give your attention freely to these things, you're not relaxing, you're not unwinding, you're being colonized. Third, practice intentional attention. This is the discipline of directing your focus toward what aligns with the person you wish to become. If you want to be wise, attend to wisdom. If you want to be calm, attend to calm. If you want to be loving, attend to love. Not occasionally, not when it's convenient. Daily, repeatedly, until it becomes the default pattern. And finally, embrace the difficulty. Reclaiming your attention is hard because every force in modern life is trying to take it from you. But hard is not the same as impossible. Hard is where meaning lives. Hard is where you discover who you actually are beneath the noise. There's an ancient saying, you become what you behold. It's not metaphorical. It's literal. The things you look at, think about, consume, surround yourself with, these things shape the structure of your consciousness. If you behold beauty, you become beautiful. If you behold truth, you become truthful. If you behold trash, you become trashy. This isn't moral judgment. It's a description of how minds work. The existentialists understood that we are always in the process of becoming. There is no fixed self waiting to be discovered. There is only the self we are creating moment by moment through our choices. And the most important choice, the one we make thousands of times a day, is the choice of where to place our attention. This means you have more power than you think, less than you'd like. You can't control what thoughts arise. You can't control what the world presents to you. But you can control, with practice, where you allow your attention to rest. And that's enough. That's everything. So here we are at the end, and I want to leave you with this. Your destiny is not written in the stars. It's not predetermined by your circumstances, your past, or your genes. Your destiny is being written right now, in this moment, by where your attention is. Most people never realize this. They live their entire lives believing they're passengers, when really they're pilots. Or they were pilots, but they put the plane on autopilot decades ago and forgot. The truth is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it means you have agency. Terrifying because it means you're responsible. Not for everything, but for the one thing that determines everything else, your attention. 20 years from now, you will be the person your attention has been creating, not the person you hoped to be. Not the person you said you'd become. The person your daily, hourly, moment-to-moment attention has been building in silence. The question is not what you'll do with your life. The question is, what will you do with your attention? Because your attention is your life. And where it goes, you follow. Everything else is just noise. Thanks for watching.